Today, though, what we want to do is we want to talk about um, really focusing in on that trust bridge. And I call it the investor journey. This is something I struggled with for a long time. I'm going to go into some details on that. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. So if you guys are joining, there's a pretty good chance you probably have struggled at raising capital. Maybe you're not quite there yet, but the reality of it is raising capital is not easy at first. And a lot of people tell me this, and these things are specific to, when you're finally actually starting to meet with investors, like, I don't even know what to say to investors. Like, what do I say? That you might be feeling that way, or I don't know how to build trust because I don't have a track record. That's a very, very common thing. And why would they invest with me instead of someone with more experience? I'm gonna really break that down for you today. How do I even start the conversation without sounding desperate? Don't worry, I got you. We're gonna dig into that today. And probably you might feel like this. It feels like these mentorship programs only teach you how to buy deals, not how to raise money. And that's what we're all about here. So here's our goals. If you're new or you're a beginner, you're in the right spot. This is going to help you out. If you're struggling to raise capital at all, you're in the right spot. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, I'm really going to get really specific here is show you how to build trust with investors before you ask for capital. Because I'm pretty sure you've probably been doing things the wrong way. So, look, most people, they think capital raising is really just about talking to more people. But if your messaging isn't clear and your process isn't dialed in, and you're trying to pitch a deal before you build trust, you're probably gonna really struggle when it comes to raising capital. And it's going to feel really awkward, right? This is really, and I was there for a long time. I spent a lot, like years in this really awkward space. I did not know how to really get through this. And if you're taking that approach, then I'm going to be real honest with you. It's like throwing crap against the wall and hoping that it works. Like it just like maybe this will work. And I just got off a phone call with someone. We were talking about capital raising, and they said to me, isn't capital raising like, isn't that about how to like really showcase a deal? Like, don't I just really want to make this deal like awesome? And if the deal is good enough, people are going to invest. And my answer was, no, actually, that's not at all the way you want to do it. The best way to do it is you gotta build trust. You have to do it. And when you stop chasing investors and you start guiding investors, when you shift from let me tell you about my deal to let me show you how I help people grow their money safely and achieve their goals, that's when everything's going to change with you. Okay. And this is, I'm going to show you how we build trust. And when you learn how to build trust, it just flips the whole process upside down on its head. So you'll see here, it's about honestly being friendly and helping people out genuinely. You want to be very educational. And then there's this bullet I have about curious. If you stick around until the end, this will make sense. The part about being curious, it's all going to make sense. Trust me on this, okay? See that? I'm building a trust bridge, right? Trust me on this. You need people to be curious in a really good way, and you're going to help them honestly be enlightened. All right, guys, real quick. If you've never met me before, my name is Stephen Lee Thomas. I'm a multifamily investor. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a podcast host, and I'm a business coach. And I help people raise capital. I teach them how to raise capital for their deals. A little bit more about my partners and I. We've invested in nearly 3,500 units across 16 deals. These are large apartment complexes. We've been doing this for a while, and we've figured out how to raise capital. My partners and I, we've been able to raise over $70 million in capital. So we've done this a couple times. We know what's going on here. It wasn't always like this. I remember a time when I felt very frustrated. I struggled a lot and I didn't really have a good process for raising capital. And the first time I went to raise capital, I did what I was being told by, the coaches that I had at the time, the training that I had at the time, go build an investor database, and I did. I built an investor database, but I didn't access database. Never learned how to send out emails. Never did any webinars. Never built any trust. I sent out this email to all my investors, in my investor database, and it was crickets. Nothing came back. I got one person to invest, and I figured like I just am not the guy to raise capital. But I spent years and tens of thousands of dollars figuring out how to raise capital. And what I learned is that raising capital, it's not about fancy websites. It's not about getting thousands of leads. It's not about having the best pitch deck. Everything I taught was wrong. And I learned that I was doing things backwards. And I learned that I had to build trust. That's what we're going to talk about today. So, look, I know for you guys, look, my story is not unique for many of you. It might be you're here because you know how important raising capital is, but you honestly don't know where to start. And that's cool. We were all there at some point. You believe in this business, but raising capital still feels really awkward, slow, and uncertain, and you want to break through that. That's why you're here. Or maybe you keep hearing just find a deal and the money will follow, and it hasn't worked. So we're going to break through all of that today. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to get inside the head of the investors. We want to understand this thing we call the investor journey. Hey guys, if you got questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. When we get to the end, we're going to go through Q&A. We'll do a live Q&A. So if you got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. So why do I even have this here, like understanding the investor journey? So when I first started having potential calls with potential investors, so I had learned the first thing I did, first deal was had a bunch of business cards, built a database, sent out one email for a webinar, and was crickets. And then I went and I got help, and it was, well, you need to start building this trust, but I still didn't know what I needed to do. So I did start getting calls scheduled with people and chatting with them, and but what happened when I got them on these calls, it was very technical. I got them on the calls and I said, all right, guys, here's what we're going to cover. And I started explaining to them all the things we do. I said, here's our criteria. Here's the places where we look to invest. Here's A class, B class, C class. Here's how a cap rate works. Let me give you an example. I was showing them math like that. And people just were not resonating. I was like, why am I so excited about this and you're not? And honestly, while I was talking, I could see people like they were confused or not really paying attention. But it was after I got a lot of feedback, I realized I was doing more talking than listening. I was never taking the time to listen to their needs. The only questions I was asking them was, all right, does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? That was it. I was never actually connecting with them. And here's what I learned is that my job isn't to sell people on investing in apartments. My job as a capital raiser is to listen and understand why people need these types of investments. If you guys are familiar with Stephen Covey, he has the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a really, really good book. I've read it multiple times. Also had another version of it, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. I've gone through that training. But here's what's important about that. If nothing else, you can go look up a diagram after this. Just go look. Stephen Covey, with a Stephen, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand and then to be understood. All right, that's really what a lot of this is. So what I want to do now is I want to share with you some of the most common things people have told me when I'm talking to them and I take the time to listen to them. All right? And this is the big mindset shift I want you guys to make. You need to shift from I'm here trying to like show you this deal or why apartment investing is so awesome. And you need to take the time to listen and understand where your potential investors are at. Because if you're not doing that, you're not taking the time to understand and listen to them. You are not seeking first to understand and then to be understood. So let's go through some of these. All right, the first one here, the stock market is all over the place. I'm tired of guessing. I just want something more predictable. How many of you feel that? How many of you have ever felt that before? This is a very common thing. Here's another one. If I lost my job tomorrow, I don't have a plan. I need to start thinking about real income, not just my salary. So I've had people tell me this before. This is real feedback. But at first, I wasn't taking the time to ask people any questions about them. And so they never felt heard. This is a very common one. I make good money, but I'm still trading my time for it. I want to start buying my time back. I want my money to work for me. I'm tired of working for my money. Or I know people invest in apartments, but I honestly don't know how it works. I have no clue how it works. And I don't want to feel stupid asking questions. I've had a lot of people tell me this is that they want to get into it and it's very kind of uncomfortable. And actually, what holds them back is just the uncomfortableness of digging into it more. And so there's really an opportunity for you guys to, if you ask the right questions, they'll share something like this with you. And then you have the opportunity to lead them to a different spot. A lot of people tell me, I don't want to retire just to stress about money. I want income that supports my lifestyle without eating into my savings. How many of you can relate to that? I bet a lot of you can relate to that. That's probably why you're here. That's probably why you're on the journey you are on. And people say these things, right? So the next one here is I've worked too hard to just keep working. It's time to start building something that pays me back. If Here's a question for you. If you guys are posting anything on social media about apartment investing, what is it you guys are posting? Are you posting about how awesome apartments is and the great returns it is? Or are you trying to connect with people and what's really keeping them awake at night? Because I guarantee you, if you connect with people on what's keeping them awake at night, and if you can lead them away from that, that's when everything gets a lot easier. Okay. That's when everything's really, really, really going to change for you. So let's do this. I'm going to present this in a couple different ways, these concepts here. Why do people invest their money in the first place? And I'm not talking apartments, I'm just talking investments in general. Can I see in the chat? Can you guys put something in the chat? Like, why do people invest their money in the first place? Why does anybody invest any money ever? Ever? Do you guys have money in the stock market? Why do you have it there? There's a surplus to see a return. Okay. Um, you invest your money there for multiple reasons. And the reality of it is a lot of us, we don't know any other place to put our money. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover the next several slides. There's 5 universal truths when it comes to investing. And you need to understand these. And once you do, this is going to become core in everything you do when it comes to raising capital and a lot of your messaging. Um, and it's also going to help give you a lot of purpose to raising capital because the reality of it is it's not just, these deals, these apartment deals and raising capital. It's not just for you to make money. I know there's a lot of money to be made, but you have to look at it different. There's an opportunity for you guys to change people's lives. And when you look at it that way, it's a very, very, very different perspective. So let's go through these. All right. And as I go through these, I want you to think about a moment when you have felt this way. Because there's a pretty good chance you felt on all of these, you felt this way probably more than once. And if you felt this way, I guarantee you You aren't the only one. Like everybody feels this way at some point. So, universal truth number one is people are deeply afraid of losing the money they've worked so hard to save or not having enough when they need it the most. Can you guys relate to that? How many of you are afraid of losing money? So, is this one of the reasons why you invest your money? So that you don't, I mean, you can put money in a savings account, but you invest it because you feel like you're going to get a better return. And what you want is you don't ever want to have that feeling when you're out of money and when you need it most. And when you get older, you need more money. Your expenses will go up. Yeah, maybe you have your house paid for, but all of a sudden your medical expenses go up. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it was a friend of ours had to come out of retirement because they had medical bills and they spent so much they spent all their money. Universal truth number two. A lot of people they worry they'll spend their best years working only to miss out on the real time with the people who matter the most. So I'm going to give you an example of this. A few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, my mom, she went straight from work to the emergency room. And a long story short, she had internal bleeding. She had to be flown to another hospital where they had to do multiple surgeries to fix the issue. And it was very touch and go. And one of the things she said while she was on her deathbed was, if I make it out of this, I'm going to retire. She almost didn't get that opportunity, right? She's doing good. She's great now. She actually just came back from a month in Europe with her sister-in-law. So just landed yesterday, the day before. So she's doing good. But it honestly it took that moment in time for her to be like, I gotta change something here. Um, and what happened, and I remember in that moment thinking to myself, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm not going to spend my best years grinding away just so that I get to miss out on it. So I don't get that opportunity. And everybody feels this way. And so I remember thinking, I want to help as many people as I can be able to spend time with their families and the people they care about. Okay. So that can be you. You can be that person. You can be that guide to help people avoid this. Universal truth number three. People fear they're going to grind for decades, and when they finally retire, their health won't allow them to enjoy the freedom they've earned. Again, how many of you can relate to this? How many of you know people in your family or loved ones or somebody that you know who's like this? Okay. So again, this was almost my mom. She almost didn't, have the health to even be able to go live the life she wanted to. So for example, my dad, he's got some heart issues. He's had one knee replaced. He's not as mobile as he used to be. My mom's had both of her knees replaced. The reality of it is life wears you down. So people are looking for a shortcut. How can they get to where they want to be faster so they don't have to get to this point in their lives? Universal truth number four. They quietly wonder if they'll look back one day and regret not chasing the things they were truly passionate about. So, do you guys know anybody who hates their job but keeps going in because they need the money? Pretty good chance, right? They keep going in because they think they don't really have any other options, or they're not going to go back to college. They're just going to grind and grind and grind and grind. And when you talk to them, they complain about work all the time. So this is my dad. I remember before he retired, honestly, I hated talking to him about work because it always ended up with him complaining. Oh, these guys are idiots. Oh, my boss. And it was like, Dad, why are you doing this? And he's like, because I need the money. I need the money. And he spent like literally months away from the house. He had to travel a lot for his work. So, his passion was really to be out working in his shop. He got these old cars and the stuff to work on, and it just sat there and it collected dust and never did anything. He never got to do anything with it. Um, so I remember he was in the spot, and so finally he's in a spot to retire. He's at a knee replace. He's recovered from that, and he's out there doing the things he wants. But that is a lot of us get stuck in that trap. Then there's universal truth number five, and this is a lot of people, including myself. They're afraid they're going to leave this world, having played it safe without making the impact they were meant to make. Now, how many of you can relate to this? And be honest, if this is you, put it in the chat. Just say me. Like, I want to make an impact. How many of you know that you have a better purpose than to go to work for someone every day in and day out? Me. How many of you want to make an impact on other people? I do. So let me ask you this. If you're struggling to raise capital, how many of you have asked a potential investor what their goals are in life? Have you done it? Or do you go in talking about apartment investing? How many of you have asked a potential investor what they're passionate about? Have you ever asked them that question? How many of you have asked a potential investor what their greatest impact is they want to make? And if you haven't asked those questions, that's fine. That's why you're here. But what I'm telling you is if all you're doing is talking about the apartment deal, then you're missing out on what it is the person even cares about. And if you take the time to have the right conversation, if you take the time to get to know the person, these are the steps you take and you build that trust. Because people don't ask these types of questions. Even if you see the ads out there for apartment deals, it's, you know, 15% IRR, whatever it is. You see these deals, 80% return on investment. That's all people talk about. Apartment investing is so great because of, the money you make, but you're not connecting with people because people don't lay in bed at night thinking, oh, apartment investing is going to solve my problems. Oh, if I could only get 15% IRR. Like nobody lays in bed thinking those things. But you know what people do lay in bed thinking about? These universal truths that the stock market's volatile. They want to spend more time with their family. They want to leave an impact. They want to leave a legacy. This is what keeps people awake at night. Connect with people on this level. And then you show them a path to get where they want. Okay, here's the takeaway from that. Most people believe their entire future depends on money or whether they'll have enough of it when it counts. And if we're not speaking to that fear, if we're not showing them a path that relieves that pressure, then we're missing the whole point, guys. Okay? If you're not making that connection, if we're not showing a path that gets them away from that fear, that pressure, then you're doing it all wrong. So here's what you need to ask yourself. How does what you do help someone feel more confident, secure, and in control of their future? Bridge that gap. That's what you're trying to do. That is what really is going to move the needle for you. Because at the end of the day, what does it take to have the freedom we all want? It's financial freedom, okay? It's truly financial freedom. So I'm gonna present this to you in a little bit different perspective. Our job is to help people become financially literate. If we can teach them to be financially literate, then we can help them achieve financial freedom. And why do people want financial freedom? Is because ultimately, what we all want is time freedom. That's what we all want. We all want the freedom to do the things we want when we want with the people we want. Here is another aha moment I had. And financial literacy, it's not something that's formally taught. And I'll explain this more. If you go to school and you become a medical doctor, do you think they teach you how to invest? They don't. You might get, some accounting classes. I went to business school and yeah, I had some accounting classes. But if you're a lawyer, you're a business owner, you're a VP in an organization, you're a director, you're a manager, just because you have a high level degree or you receive multiple promotions does not mean there is any financial education that comes along with that. Anytime I got a promotion at work, there was never like, hey, guess what? We're going to give you some training so that you know what to do with this additional money you're making. It was literally a conversation at the dinner table with my wife. What should we do? Well, we should probably go to dinner and celebrate. We should go on vacation. But there was no financial planning. Well, maybe we can put some more money into the savings account. Maybe we can get that car we've been wanting. There is no real good financial education that's out there. So again, our job, if we're doing it right, is to connect with individuals and understand where they're at. And if we can teach them financial literacy, then we walk them away from that pain that they've got. We help them solve all of those problems because we guide them towards financial freedom. And if they achieve financial freedom, then ultimately have time freedom. So that is the way that you build the trust bridge. Now, I'm going to break this down to you again in a little different perspective. So, also along my journey, I've learned about this thing called the StoryBrand framework. Now, before I go through and break this down for you, I want you to think about, and I'm going to give you some examples, some really, really good movies that you've seen. And we also call this the hero's journey. But what happens is people need a guide, someone to guide them away from whatever pain or fear they have so they avoid the failure. So here's some examples: Luke Skywalker and Yoda. Okay. Luke Skywalker is the hero, Yoda is the guide. Think of Karate Kid. You got Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi. Right now, they got Cobra Kai that's out, which is fun to watch. But Daniel LaRusso comes into town. He's the odd kid, uh, you know, and gets picked on. Then he has Mr. Miyagi. Daniel is the hero. Miyagi is the guide. Or there's like the Matrix. So think of Neo and Morpheus. Neo is the hero, but it is Morpheus who guides him there. Okay. So now that you've got those visuals, what is your role in all of this as you're raising capital? Are you the hero? Or are you the guide? I want to see in the chat. Before I move on, I need somebody to put in the chat. Your role, are you the guide or are you the hero? Let's see it. I'm going to call on somebody. Dennis, David. We got two Davids. Bout, what is your role? Kylan, you're in here. What is your role? Are you the hero? Are you the guide? Okay, you can be both. Dennis, you're the guide. I want to see one more. Shantae, are you with me? Paula, the guide, the guide, the guide. Okay. Here's my answer. You're the guide. I think you can be the hero of your own journey. But so let me walk you through this. There is a character. This is Luke Skywalker with a problem. The Rebel Alliance wants to come get him. But he meets a guide, Yoda, that gives him a plan, the Force, and he calls him to action. You've got to go fight the dark side. That results in he has two paths. He ends up in success and helps them avoid failure. So if you're the guide, think of everything we talked about today. If you're the guide, you are walking people through how to avoid failure, and everyone wants to be the hero of their own journey. So really, truly, your job is to be the guide. You will get fulfillment for that. That is your journey. You will be the hero of your journey, but chances are you probably need a guide to help you get there. But if you perceive your role as a capital raiser as a guide, and all these people out there, they want to be the hero of their journey. They want to leave a legacy for their family. They want to spend more time with their family. They want to go on vacations. They want to retire early. You be the guide. You teach them how to be the hero because then their wife is proud of them. Their husband is proud of them. Their family, their children, their parents are all proud of them because of what they accomplished, but you just guide them. You're just kind of behind the scenes guiding them. So let me show that to you a little bit different. So you have a potential investor and who wants time freedom. Then they meet you. You take the time to understand them, get to know them, and you provide them education. And then you call them to action. Hey, I have these opportunities for you that are going to help, you achieve what you want. But I only know what you want because I took the time to get to know you. And that's invest passively in apartments. And that results in their time freedom, and they avoid working the rest of their life. So that is a different way to perceive that. Okay. So we've gone through a lot today. So as a quick recap, I said I'm gonna explain this curious. So naturally, we're all very curious, and if you can pique curiosity in these potential investors, and they're all over the place, they're all out there. Our job as capital raisers is to guide people from curious to confident, from not knowing how any of this works to feeling ready to say yes to the next investment opportunity. And I'm telling you guys, when you get this figured out, everything else starts to fall into place. And this is when there's this really cool moment when your conversations, they become way more natural, and you no longer feel like you're selling anything because you're truly guiding people to a brighter future. You now have the ability to change somebody's life for the better. And that's a pretty cool feeling. And when you start feeling that way, you no longer feel salesy. When you know you can have an impact on somebody else's life, you want to go out and share with people what it is you're doing because you truly want to make a difference in other people's lives. So that is the investor journey. You have to take the time to understand where they're at. Like, think about what keeps them up at night. And there's a really good chance it's the same things that have kept you up at night. So here's the deal, guys. For those of you who are looking to raise more capital for your next deal, if you're interested in hopping on a call with me and learning more about how we can help you do that, then go ahead and scan this, or we're going to put a link in the chat here in just a moment, and go ahead and book a call with me. And I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to get a better understanding of where you're at, what some of your experience is in apartment investing, find out where you want to be, how much capital you're looking to raise, and how soon you're looking to raise that, what strategies you've tried, and what's really keeping you stuck. And if I think there's something I can do to help you out, I'm just going to explain to you exactly what that looks like. And if I can't, then I'm also going to be very honest with you, but I will do my best to point you in the right direction and give you some resources that might help you get where you need to be. So once again, guys, if you are feeling stuck in raising capital and you want more strategies like this, you want a proven roadmap, go ahead and book a call. And either me or somebody from my team going to hop on a call with you, and we'll just give you a quick assessment and see if there's an opportunity to help you out. So scan that QR code, or we've got it in the chat. So the next thing I'm going to do is, we have time today. We're going to hop into questions. So if you've got questions about this or any other capital raising questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I will do my best to pick those up. And while you guys are coming up with your questions, I'm going to go with some of these other questions we get commonly as I'm having these conversations. I'm going to share with you some of those insights. All right. So how do I even start the conversation without sounding salesy? I love this one. I had this one come up just the other day. I said, well, how do I even have this conversation? And so there's a method that I like to teach, and it's really just this like ABC, and that is, just think of a casual conversation, and someone says, "Hey, what do you do?" And you say, "Well, I do real estate investing." Oh, how does that work? I explain that to them a little bit how it works, and then I like to start by asking questions. Like, truly, just like I said, I ask a lot of questions, and so I like to understand. I like to ask, "Hey, so give me some examples of the things that you invest in." And they might tell me, and then I'll say, "Oh, okay. Well, what are some of your goals?" And they'll tell me, and I'll say, "What are some of your challenges?" And they'll tell me. And now I really started to take the time to learn about them before I've ever talked about anything that I do or how it might be a good fit for them. And that becomes a very natural conversation at that point. So that's really the strategy that I use. What do I say to help someone go from interested to actually investing? Um, so this goes back into taking the time to build the trust bridge. I am also a very big believer in when the moment is right, when you've had the right conversations, is to have a direct conversation, and see if they'd be interested. And if they're not, then you need to figure out why they're not. Like, what is it that's holding them back? So you can't be afraid to ask people if they're interested in investing. How do I know when someone is ready to see a deal? Pretty good chance they're gonna ask you when they can see a deal. So I'll have people ask me, when's your next deal coming up? You have any deals coming up? When you provide enough education and you get them excited and you can see that there's a path forward, they're gonna ask you to see a deal. What kind of content or education do investors need to feel confident? Um, if you so everybody's a little bit different. This is a very long answer here. First of all, people consume content very differently. So some people like email, some people like blogs, some people like webinars, some people like YouTube videos. So um, the content can be in different platforms, but really truly what you're doing, if you're the person who provides the education, if you're the person who shows people the way, so you have to connect with them like, hey, if this is you, if you have this pain, if you have this fear, and then you can help provide answers for that and guide them away from it. It's really just education. So if you were to provide education on just those topics we covered today, just start talking about those things and how you understand that, you can relate to that, and by investing in apartments, they can move away from it because it's a way to get away from some of the volatility of the stock market, how they can pay less in taxes on the money they're making with their investments, some things like that. That's how you can get them to feel confident. You basically, with anything, before you move forward, you have to have enough education to feel confident. So you just got to provide the education of the things we're talking about. So I would not say that you need to go into the level I was doing first because I found it didn't work, which was, let me show you underwriting. That was too much for most people. Some people want it, but most people don't. How do I build trust if I haven't done many deals yet? I will just go back to the education part. So there's really two things. If you provide that amount of education, people are going to see you as a thought leader. Number two is also, when you're first getting started, it's very likely you're going to be partnering with some people who have done some deals, and just chat with them. And if you can leverage their experience in those conversations, I recommend that as well. What are the biggest fears my investors are dealing with, and how do I address them? The biggest fears I see right now is ties back very closely into the stock market, or even crypto. There's just a lot of fear and speculation of that. So what people are looking for is something stable, that they can invest in, that doesn't have the volatility associated with the stock market, or they want some long-term strategies. How do I follow up without feeling like I'm bothering people? Um, so first of all, you do need to be comfortable following up with people. There's a lot of people who you reach out to once and they might not respond. We like to do it three, four, five times, and it's just, hey, touching base. Hey, where do you want to go from here? Um, and you can do it in different ways. So you can do it through a text message. You can do it through an email. If you're part of like Facebook or Facebook group, you could message them in a Facebook group. But the reality of it is, if you change the way you think, that you actually have an opportunity to lead people away from some really big problems, then you're not bothering people, you're presenting them an opportunity. How do I create a process or funnel that warms people up over time? Well, that's what we're doing in our capital raising fast track. We're walking people through how to build that entire funnel. There's a lot to go over there. Um, but there are things you do, and so we would teach you how to create email automations. We would teach you how to do some social media posts. We teach you how to do webinars, all those things, and so it takes all of those things. Think of it like a football team. You got bunch of different things going on, but together it all works. What kind of stories or examples should I share to make this real for them? So the best stories you can share are your stories, um, or stories of other people that have invested. Those are the best stories or examples. If you don't have a personal story, then you got to use an analogy. You just use an analogy and you put that in there, and it makes it relatable for someone. How do I know if my investor journey is working or if I'm losing people along the way? You just have to keep track of the people that are starting to follow you. So at some point you'll start creating some lead magnets. But you'll know, like one of the things I do when I'm first, when I first started and what I teach people how to do is ask for feedback early and often. Ask for feedback from people. Hey, did this help you? Hey, are there other questions that you have? Hey, was this beneficial to you? Um, and what did you like about what we talked about today? What could I do different? Does this answer your questions? And so it really is taking the time to ask. You will know. You will understand pretty quickly if your message is resonating or not. If you don't have a large following, it's going to be a little bit harder, but I do recommend that you try some different things and you'll start to see what people are interested in. And don't be afraid to just change your messaging a little bit along the way. All right. Did we get any questions in the chat today? I think I may have answered all of them. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and sticking around. I hope you found this very valuable. If you'd like to see more of this or some other topics, let me know. Reach out to my team or myself. Hit us up in the school community. And like I said, for those of you that have already joined our beta launch capital raising program, we're kicking that off next week. Lots of great information. We got a great group together. And for those of you that haven't joined yet and you're interested in what that would be like to join and what you're going to get out of that, go ahead and click that link, or I can go back to this QR code. I'll leave that up for a minute. Go ahead and book a call. Book a call with us. And if you want to get into this beta launch at a highly discounted program, before the price goes up, the price is going to go up next Friday. So if you miss this opportunity, the price is going to go up. So don't miss it. Join us. We'd be super excited to have you. It'd be your chance to get in and give us some feedback and be a founding member. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to chatting with all of you soon and seeing a lot of you guys next week. Thank you very much. I will talk to you later. Bye.